Boys and girls, welcome back. Raiders Daily. Every single day, weekday, on Bleacher Report. My name is Rodney. If you already knew that, thank you so much for coming back and watching, checking out another live stream. Whether you are watching live on BR, make sure we're getting the chat active because it's time for a little bit of evaluation. Or whether you're watching after the fact on my YouTube channel, hit that like button, comment away your thoughts because this is the first time I've been on Bleacher Report since the legal tampering window is opened and free agency officially began yesterday. And, initially, as soon as free agency opens, there's the doomsday, we're not signing anybody. And then there's the we signed everybody that we should have. And then there's the we let all our free agents go. This front office doesn't know what's going on. We're going to make the Super Bowl. We're going to miss the playoffs. You weed all that out. You let it all kind of, simmer, and then you evaluate. So I see people in the chat. I'm slacking. How am I slacking? What did I do? How am I slacking? Answer that, JS Saleto. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff today. And then there was a report that came out about some steam being gained by a certain running back being taken by the Las Vegas Raiders. He's got some supporters in the room, in the front office. I'm not going to give it away, but I'm sure any diehard Raider fan watching who knows who that is. Everybody does need to take a deep breath, so let's do it together. Let's talk about free agency. Now, look, I made a YouTube video earlier. It seems to be a little tradition of mine to make a Thursday YouTube video to do a little summary of what I'm going to expand upon live on BR. And I said as much that John Spytek and Pete Carroll had a plan laid out in front of them for free agency. Do I think they executed that plan from A to Z? No, I do not. I do think there are things that they did not foresee happening, maybe losing all three of Spillane, Merrick, and Spillane, Merrick, and Nate Hobbs. I do think they were going to get one of those back in an ideal world. The fact that all three are gone now, again, not exactly what they set out to do. But to say that we had a bad offseason, I don't think is entirely accurate, or I shouldn't say offseason. We'll just call this free agency. The reason why I do think it's been a little bit better than some of the fans and some of the pundits may have been giving it credit for, although no one's saying that it's been terrible. People are just saying it's not exactly what we thought it would be. We weren't exactly flush with cash after acquiring Geno Smith, extending Adam Butler, and extending Max Crosby. So, yes, I expected them to go out and get at least a Chris Godwin or a Dre Greenlaw. The problem is it's a two-way street a lot of the times, and Chris Godwin goes back to Tampa Bay for $20 million less, according to Ian Rappaport, than the teams that were offering him bigger contracts. Someone said that was the Patriots. It could have been us with the Spytek Brady connection. I do think wide receiver specifically is an area of need that I would rather hit in free agency than in the first round of the draft. So I do think the Cooper Kupps of the world, the Stephon Diggs of the world, the Keenan Allens of the world, they're going to get looks from us. And Chris Godwin is that one free agent that I was like, I would have liked to have grabbed him. All that to say, bringing back Kuntz was massive, especially on a one-year prove-it deal. Bringing back Butler was very important. And then Jeremy Chin, who is, according to Pro Football Focus, I just want to say this real quickly. I hear rain starting outside, and it doesn't rain here a lot. So if the power goes out, I apologize. Hopefully it doesn't. We'll try to get through as much of this as we can, but I can hear it out there. Knock on wood. Knock on wood if you're with me. Jeremy Chin is around the same player skill-wise as Trayvon Merrick, and we got him for half the price. And I liked what a lot of these guys said in the press conferences today. So before we get into the specifics, and Raheem Mostert is now running back in the mix as well. Before I get into the chat here, and before I get into specifics of people that we re-signed, I want to pose this question to, the ether, the council that I keep calling you guys. I don't know, the Jedi Council. We'll get a name for you guys eventually. Grade the Raiders free agency period so far. Now, it is up to you whether or not you want to include Geno Smith in this. I would. And the reason why I would give the Raiders a B, I agree with all you guys voting so far in the poll that it's probably a B, maybe B plus, more so just a B, is because, and I said this when we traded for Geno Smith for a third, we got the best quarterback on the market. As soon as Stafford was gone, Geno Smith became the best quarterback. And if you look at the reports coming out now with the Steelers and the Giants, they're on their hands and knees, hoping and praying that Aaron Rodgers, a 42-year-old coming off an Achilles injury a year ago, signs with them. That would have been us if we didn't trade for Geno Smith. It would have been take a risk on Sam Darnold, which I was okay with taking a risk, especially with the money that he got. I knew it wasn't going to be $45 million. I knew it was going to be close to the Baker Mayfield contract. I was okay with Sam. But he went to Seattle, and all of a sudden, at least we're going into next season with the puncher's chance at quarterback. Because if Aaron Rodgers, let's just hypothetically say he decides to retire, right? The Steelers now have to claw back to Russell Wilson, and the Giants have to go with who? Zach Wilson and Shedeur Sanders? Those teams are going to be in the same position that we were this past offseason going into the regular season with Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. Now, it should have been Aiden O'Connell. It is what it is. Either way, those guys aren't your franchise quarterbacks. And not to say that Geno is the future of the franchise either, but you cannot, under any circumstance, go into the next season with no quarterback. And we saw what that was like. And Spytech knows the success that he can have with a proven veteran in the mix. So you've got Aiden there. You've got Geno there. You're going to draft a rookie. Todd McShay says we're out on Shedeur Sanders. It's going to be closer to Will Howard. So that's why this free agency period already began with a little less money than you would have thought, because a lot of that's going to be allocated to Geno, but with a little more grace because of all the positions that we needed to bring people new in, and we needed to re-sign Kuntz, and we needed to make sure that Spillane stayed. The quarterback was priority numero uno. And they figured that out before the tampering period even began. And I can't wait to see Geno Smith's press conference tomorrow. I'm assuming it's going to be tomorrow, because if it's not tomorrow, then it's going to have to be Monday. But let's see what some people in the chat are saying. And that's my initial pitch on why this is a B, even from the start. It could have been a little higher if we brought some of these guys back. And we'll get to some specifics on people that we did bring back. But, we needed to get the quarterback figured out. And I'm happy that we did. Now, we need to figure out linebacker, wide receiver, and running back. Running back, we'll talk about in a little bit. Wide receiver, it's kind of up in the air for me. I don't know how we're going to address that position right now. It could be Tyler Lockett, another person that just came to mind. And linebacker will be interesting, too. I know C.J. Mosley's out there. A lot of people want to bring him in. So what are we seeing in the chat? Love the offseason so far. They know we aren't close to the Super Bowl. They will build through the draft and develop. And that's the thing. We just need to get back to being able to play meaningful games in January, right? Or in December into January. Just try to find a way to build a winning culture, to show Max, like, we're going to try to win a lot of these games. We're going to do our best to make the playoffs. And you've got up-and-comers in the Broncos and the Chargers in our division, but the Chiefs feel more vulnerable than they have in the past, so you never know. A player could develop like Malcolm Kuntz did a couple years ago, like a Tommy Eichenberg, for example. You never know. Isaiah Polamau, we re-signed. That's another person to check off the box, to put in a grade for, free agency, is someone that we brought back. So, yeah, we're not going to win a Super Bowl next year, right? That would be nice. It's not going to happen, but we just got to build this thing the right way. And Spytech is a guy who builds through the draft. He re-signs the people that he thinks he should re-sign, and then they're going to build through the draft just like the Tampa Bay Bucks did. The Tampa Bay Bucks went from one of the oldest teams with Brady and AB and Gronk to one of the youngest teams with Bucky Irving and Baker Mayfield, right? They'll find a way to get some decent guys in the draft, which is why they're not going balls to the wall here with this free agent class that, is not great to begin with. My main priority was not Milton Williams or Josh Sweat. It was trying to re-sign a bunch of guys that we were going to lose, and we re-signed half of them. Polamau, Butler, Kuntz, and Crosby, if you want to count Crosby. Merrick was overpaid, in my opinion. Spillane, that was a fair price for him, but you could find another Spillane. And Hobbs, as good as he is, can't stay on the field. So I understand completely all those moves in a vacuum or broad strokes. Okay, let's see. Chin and Roberts are going to fit right in. I agree. Their press conference was pretty good. It's good, not perfect, but good. I agree. I feel like the draft is going to tell us a lot more about this front office, how they think and how they operate better than free agency. Well, I don't disagree with that. Still will miss Merrick and Spillane, but those contracts were nuts. Rebounded nicely, though. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. I want Becton, Jenkins, or Mason for the O-line. I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. I take Mason over Becton and Jenkins. I do foresee us taking some left tackles later in the draft that are from smaller Division Ones and moving them to guard, which is what Spytech said they did with some linemen in Tampa Bay that they had a lot of success with. So I don't know if they're going to go sign a Mason or a Becton, but I could see a world in which that happens. I think we have about $30 million left to spend. Maybe half of that, a little less than half of that, will be allocated toward this draft. So I think they're going to go get a wideout, and they're going to go get maybe another linebacker or a corner to fit that bill. I know they were on Byron Murphy, who ultimately went back to Minnesota, but it's interesting. It's very interesting. So let's unpin that poll. I agree. It was a B. It was a B. And let's just go right into the next one because we've got to talk about, I think these are the three biggest signings in terms of bringing people back when the free agent window was open. Like, I'm not counting Crosby, Gino, pull him out, or Adam Butler. It's after it was open. These seem to be the biggest three names, in my opinion. Raheem Mostert just happened today. So I wanted to throw him in here, and I want to hit on every single person here on this list. But who do you think is going to have the biggest impact? Who's the biggest free agent that we re-signed or that we brought in here moving forward for this defense? Now, I already hit a little bit on Jeremy Chin. I didn't know much about him. I wasn't going to pretend to know a lot of what he did with the Bengals, I believe. Was it the Bengals or the Commanders? Now I'm questioning. The Commanders, excuse me, not the Bengals. But from what I've read in terms of, his ranking of Pro Football Focus, his stat line is that he is every bit as skilled as Trayvon Merrick. The difference between them two is that Jeremy Chin is more of a hard hitter and Trayvon Merrick was more of a cover safety. So you're going to need Isaiah Pola-Mao to pick up some of that coverage slack. But Jeremy Chin is making half the money. And when I made my off-season prediction video, or not prediction video, my plan that I would do, I offered Trayvon Merrick 4 years, $50 million. The Panthers gave him 3 years, $51 million. So they gave him 17 per. I gave him 12 per. There was no way I was giving Trayvon Merrick 17 million a year. Jeremy Chin is making a fraction of that to be every bit as good, and he kind of feels like he needs to prove it now, right? He's got a little bit of money in the bank, but he wants to, he wants to show that with this new version of the Legion of Boom, whatever we're going to call it, that he's going to be the Cam Chancellor, or he's going to be the Earl Thomas next to Troy Polamalu's nephew. So I'm in with Jeremy Chin. Bars, don't hate the player of the game. Malcolm Kuntz, which is leading this poll, was massive because we just lost K'Lavon Chaisson, which means Tyree Wilson is going to have to take on that third edge rusher position, assuming we don't make some crazy trade for Trey Anderson, which I don't think is going to happen. By the way, T. Higgins is still available. He's probably going to get traded for a first-round pick. I don't see that happening with us either unless it's a 2026 first-round pick. You can convince me of doing that. I'm going off on a tangent now. Bringing back Kuntz was huge. Now, obviously, he's coming off of a torn ACL, right? The year before that, he had 8.5 sacks in like 9 games starting. McDaniels didn't want to start him. AP started him, and he exploded. And everyone this past offseason, the one before this season we just played, was saying that Malcolm Kuntz was in line to have a massive breakout season, rips his knee out, and that's it. Getting him back for 1 year, $12 million, prove it deal. And I saw some people say, well, what if he balls out this year and he wants a new contract? Okay, well, then you give it to him. And if you can't come to an agreement, you franchise tag him. And he's going to be making more money than he ever thought he would be as a third-round pick. He already is making more money than he ever should be as a third-round pick. And now with him next to Crosby, next to Butler, and the addition of Christian Wilkins, who barely played for us last season. He was out in like 3 games because he stupidly jumped over Max Crosby to celebrate sacking Lamar Jackson. This front four is going to be very formidable. It should be top 6-ish in the National Football League. And if Butler can continue to do what he did, 5.5 sacks over the past 2 seasons, each of the last 2 seasons, and Malcolm Butler Malcolm Butler. Malcolm Kuntz. I don't know why I got Malcolm Butler on the red. Malcolm Kuntz being able to sit right in that 8, 9, 10 sack area with Crosby being one of the best defensive players in the league. That's not too shabby. And last but not least, maybe least in this poll, but Raheem Mostert is interesting. 2 years ago, he broke the Dolphins franchise record for touchdowns in the season with like 18. Obviously, they have Hn now taking the brunt of those carries, so they had nothing to do with him. But he's a speed guy. He can fit between the tackles. I mean, he's up there in age. So we're going to have to address the running back room, obviously, with somebody else. I do think it's better to have somebody like him in there than Zamir White and Alexander Madison, who can both take a hike, in my opinion. Neither of them showed me anything last year to show that they should be running backs to get a lot of carries. Sincere McCormick, you can stay because you're a young kid who ran it decently well. But Raheem Mostert mixed with Sincere McCormick and potentially a rookie running back, I don't even think it's potentially. I think the potential is just who's it going to be? Is it just going to be one of the Ohio State guys? Is it going to be Jeanty? Is it going to be Omarion? I don't know. Needless to say, I'm happy that we have a veteran running back in that room. I do foresee us going to get the Raheem Mostert of wide receivers, whether that is a Cooper Kupp, whether that is just Keenan Allen, Tyler Lockett, to bring in to not only make plays, but to mentor Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers and whoever we take. Maybe we take T-Mac at 6. Who knows? But all that to say, again, these free agents are not going to blow you out of the water. But again, I just want to did I say this on here? Did I say this in the YouTube video? I don't know. It all runs together. This free agent class was not great. Nobody made a big splash signing. Like, nobody did. People spent a lot of money. The Patriots spent a lot of money, but Milton Williams is not a splash. Josh Sweat is not a splash. Sam Darnold is not a splash. Like, there's no all pros that are hitting free agency. This is not the NBA. You request a trade, and more often than not, you stay on the team that you play for because you're under contract and you're making generational wealth. It's rare that people as good as Sam Darnold hit the free agent market quarterback-wise. Usually you have to trade for those guys like a Geno Smith. So as much as I would have liked to have kept more guys free agent-wise, getting Adam Butler instead of Milton Williams, I'm okay with that. Getting Kuntz instead of Sweat, I'm okay with that. Like, we filled in a lot of areas. We still need to get another linebacker or two. We still need to get a wide receiver, and we still need to get a running back. So those are the 3 areas of need I still think we need to improve upon. Excuse me, I'm voice cracking because I'm getting over a sickness. I am so sorry. Let me close this poll, but I'll leave it up as I get to more of the chat. So we're talking about Roberts, right? What's his name? Alandon or something like that. 1 year, $3 million. I mean, maybe he could be the next Robert Spillane, right? Because we got him for cheap off the scrap heap when the Steelers let him go. This is another Steeler, Mike Tomlin linebacker who can be a sneaky diamond in the rough. People are saying he's a dog. He's a player. People agree on that. He's going to be a better version of Spillane, a quicker version. I don't hate that. Dino says, I think Chin will help a lot, but the impact will be Kuntz. Our D-line, healthy, can be nasty. What about 2 trade backs and get Starks in the draft? We'll talk about trade backs and we'll talk about the draft in 1 second. Don't you worry. Starks and Chin as their safeties would be great. I don't disagree with you. Polamalu is going to have a breakout year. Don't disagree with that either. I hope he does. I hope he continues to prove his namesake well in that regard. I'd be happy if we traded back and picked up Kenneth Grant. And Feet62 says feel. Can't tell. Either way, I'm apologize if I just called you Feet and it's feel. I like Grant as well. I don't hate Grant. Look, the draft is just a crapshoot. It is what it is, right? Speaking of the draft, speaking of crapshoots, speaking of running backs, there was a report that came out today. And okay, before I get into the report, because I'm going to share my screen, I'm going to take you back memory lane. We're going to backtrack. We're going to go back in time here. It was around this time last year that we were evaluating who could be our draft who could be our draft pick. Could it be a Michael Penix? Could it be somebody else? I have no memory of anybody that went in this past draft. Could it be an offensive lineman, right? Could it be a corner? Everyone was saying we should take a corner. We should take Quinyon Mitchell, right? I hypothesized. I was the first person of Raider content creators. I think I was, frankly, the only person to suggest, what if there's a historic run on quarterbacks, there's a historic run on linemen, and a couple wide receivers go, Neighbors and Harrison, and the best player in the draft falls right to us at 13, and his name is Brock Bowers. And people said, well, we have Michael Mayer. I don't see that happening. And sure enough, we were there at 13, ready to pick Michael Penix. The Falcons trade up, draft Penix. The rest is history. Roger Goodell says the name is Brock Bowers. I lose my mind. I jump out of my seat. Oh my God, we found our Devontae Adams replacement, because that's what I was calling Brock. Everyone was like, oh, Devontae. I was like, what if Devontae gets traded and we need a replacement for the future of the franchise? We need a focal point. Because the Kansas City Chiefs' number one target was not a wide receiver. It was Travis Kelce. We got Brock Bowers, and he's bang, an all-pro, best tight end, our focal point of the offense. So we have a dynamic playmaker for whoever the quarterback is playing with Brock Bowers, getting him the football. The reason I bring all this up, and I see people talking about it in the chat already, is because what if we're there at 6, and there's the Travis Hunters, and there's the quarterbacks, and there's the D linemen of the world, and Ashton Jeanty is just sitting there waiting to be drafted. The reason I bring that up, because I suggested maybe a couple months ago that we should consider taking him because our running back room is so terrible. I'm now going to share the screen. I think this is going to work. Are we good here? We are good. This is on Bleacher Report. Andrew Peters. Raiders rumors Ashton Jeanty has contingent of supporters ahead of 2025 NFL draft. Start talking in the chat about what we think about Ashton Jeanty, because I'm going to read this article here. It has become a bit uncommon for teams to use a top 10 pick on a running back in recent years. I think Saquon Barkley was like the 3rd overall pick, which seems to be worth it. But the Las Vegas Raiders might do just that this year. Per Fox Sports, Jordan Schultz coming hot off his fight with Ian Rappaport. Boise State star running back Ashton Jeanty has a contingent of supporters inside the Raiders organization, and the team could use their 6th overall pick on him. If there was ever a running back worthy of drafting early, it's Jeanty. The Heisman Trophy finalist finished 2024 season with 2,601 rushing yards and 29 touchdowns. He was just 27 yards shy of matching Barry Sanders' single-season rushing record, and he had the 7th most rushing touchdowns in college football history. Bleacher Report scouting department projects Jeanty to go to the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't think that's going to happen now because they signed Najee Harris with the 21st pick. If the Raiders are as high on Jeanty as they are believed to be, he might not make it to the 21st pick. Las Vegas has made strides in improving its offense so far this offseason, namely by trading for Geno Smith, but there's still work to be done. The Raiders had the worst rushing attack in the league last year, averaging just 80 yards per game. Jeanty would surely improve the unit if the Raiders are willing to use an early pick to draft him. There is the bombshell. So, here's what I'm proposing. And I'm reading the chat. I'm pinning this poll. I want you guys to vote in this poll honestly. Would you take Ashton Jeanty? This is a yes or no question. Not trade back, not maneuver. Would you take him with the 6th pick? If you couldn't trade back to get him, this was the only way to get him. Would you take Jeanty with the 6th pick in the NFL draft? Now, here's the thing. When I was pitching taking Jeanty at 6, I assumed that we would have a better wide receiver room at this point. I thought for sure we'd have a T. Higgins or a Chris Godwin. And there's not many trades you can make. I don't think they're going to trade for T. Higgins to get someone that's going to have the impact of a Chris Godwin. Tyler Lockett's good, not great. Cooper Kupp's good, not great, right? Diggs is great. He's coming off an ACL. I don't think he's going to be great anymore. If we had Chris Godwin with Jacoby and Brock, or T. Higgins with Jacoby and Brock, and Geno Smith making, reads and throwing the ball, I would take Jeanty at 6. Now the idea of not having that true number one wideout to complement Brock, I'm a little less convinced that we'd be able to completely flip the script with Jeanty in the backfield at 6. However, I would absolutely consider trading back to 9 or 10 and then taking him. But you got to do your due diligence to make sure that the people trading up aren't taking him and that the people drafting between 6 and wherever you traded back to, 9 or 10, are also not going to take him. That is the key to all this. If you are going to trade back and get a second or that third back that you traded for Geno Smith, you got to be dang sure that you're going to be able to get him. Now, if you trade back to 9 and he's gone, then you got to do everything you can to make sure that T-Mac is there, because then you could draft, if you trade back to 9, hoping that Jeanty's there and he's gone. Then you take the Arizona wide receiver. There's your number one wideout, and you take a running back in the second round or the third round, and you take a quarterback in the second round or the third round. That's how you play it. But if you are John Spytek and Pete Carroll, who love to run the football, and Chip Kelly, who loves to run the football, and you're convinced that Jeanty is that guy, generational, Saquon Barkley type player, I get it. There's a lot of great running backs in this draft. If he's the most surefire, if he's the Brock Bowers of running backs, I wouldn't hate taking him at 6. Because even if you don't get a great wideout in this free agency class or in the draft, you've still got 2,000-yard receivers in Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. You got like a Tyler Lockett in the mix. You're handing the ball off to Raheem Mostert and Ashton Jeanty, and you've got Geno Smith throwing them the football. Hopefully your defense is still top 15 to top 10, and that's a recipe for building a winning culture and getting your team back to the playoff mix. I wouldn't love it. It's not ideal. There's a way to be able to get Jeanty with more value if you trade back and you pull a draft day, a Kevin Costner. But in a perfect world, Jeanty's not the pick at 6. I wouldn't hate it, though. I wouldn't hate it. Brock Bowers at 13 was a lot more safe and made more sense than Jeanty at 6, especially when you've got guys like Amari Hampton and Judkins and Travion Henderson out there and Scattaboo. It just comes down to what Chip Kelly thinks he can do with Jeanty. And I see people, he's only 5'8". It's like, well, Bucky Irving's 5'9". Like, that doesn't matter. That does not matter. If he's generational, he's generational. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I could see a world in which they take him, and I wouldn't be mad about it. I would not be mad about it, because then if he hits, you've got your running back of the future. You've got your focal point offensive player of the future. You've got your defensive player of the future, of the now, in Max Crosby, and you just need to get lucky on that quarterback. Whether it's a Will Howard, a Shedeur Sanders, a Jackson Dart, whoever it may be, you gotta, if you just hit, if he's Derek Carr good, right? But you can mold him with better players and better coaching. You're rocking and rolling, man. So let's see what people are saying. Okay, let's see. What if Jerry Jones calls for 6? Oh, hold on. Where'd it go? What if Jerry Jones calls for 6 because he wants Jeanty? I mean, where are they picking? Like 12? That you probably get a lot of picks. I don't hate it. Again, you're going to have some flexibility now with Geno Smith being the quarterback. You don't have to wait and take Shedeur Sanders there. You can trade back if you're not prepared. Maybe you don't want to take maybe you don't want to take Jeanty there, but you don't want to take T-Mac there. You trade back and take one of them at the Cowboys pick. I don't hate that. Got to take that trade. Hold them ransom. It's Lion season. Everyone will be lying until April 24th. No doubt about it. Heck yeah, here's the Bowers of this draft. He could be. He absolutely could be. You can get the best wide receiver at 6 and a great starting running back in the second round. No doubt about it. I like 2 running backs. The second being Scattaboo gives me, wow, I have Van Agen vibes. I don't hate that either. Not when our GM can find Bucky Irving in the 4th round. See, and that's the thing. Spytek has a history of taking running backs like Bucky Irving and Rachaad White later in the draft. Both were 4th-round picks. 6 is way too high for running back, respectively, when our GM knows how to find them in the 4th round. And I don't disagree with you. I really don't. It just comes down to what Chip Kelly and the boys there are thinking about doing. So, look, this was exactly efficiently a half an hour. I hope you had an absolute blast. Whether you were watching live on BR. Thank you so much. Whether you're watching after the fact on YouTube, I will be back here tomorrow, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Hit that like button, comment away, and please be sure to subscribe. It's free, after no charge to you. I love you guys, and I'll see you next time.